all I have to say.
I have seen.
I thought that started at 30 seconds yet.
Excuse me, Bill, you get your turn. I would just want to address the remarks that he made. I live in the complex, and so far, the only building that I've actually...
Thank you, Mr. The next person is Natasha Ritchie. Ms. Ritchie, are you here? Would you come forward and tell us your relation to the property?
Wasn't actually signed up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you Natasha Ritchie?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So when you signed this, you didn't intend to?
And they had me sign the wrong paper when I walked in.
Okay.
I apologize.
I'm sorry. Oh, and Mr. Garcia, okay. So, the next person is, Michael or Michelle. Michael, I believe, King.
Yeah, it's Michael, I keep leaving that up.
That lives were in danger, lives are put in danger here. Families have been disrupted. I mean, in the best of times, it's tough for these folks to make it. And here this is thrown at them. Man, you got the worst job in town. I mean, they sent you out here. Don't answer. But what did they have to sign to get that $500? Did they have to release you from all legal? Yeah, they did. We can talk about that later. Number one, they didn't take care of them. They don't know where they are. They don't know how they're trying to contact them. Y'all aren't off the hook yet. I'll be with you in a second. I got a couple of minutes. It's insane. These people are out here. I was down at the Metropolis Rec Center during intake with Caritas, and I watched family after family come in there. These are good people with their children, and they're displaced. They're borrowing money that they can't hope to pay back. They're living in terrible conditions put on by the people you represent. You come in here saying that you were concerned about safety. When did you become concerned about safety? When it started costing you money? These people have been in danger for a whole long time. I don't think you're concerned about safety. I think you're concerned about money. And you're not helping these people out. And giving them $500 is just not going to cut it. Again, I appreciate y'all. How do these buildings get to this situation? Woodbridge isn't the last one. We know that this is an aging city and that these complexes are out there. Are our citizens in danger? I mean, before we step up and really do something, does someone have to die in one of these collapses? Yeah. They're released for these people to go back into, but they can't guarantee that they won't fall down. They're just not in imminent danger of falling down. Is that good enough?
No.
I mean, is it? Hell no, it ain't good enough. You need to take care of these people. They're doing the best they can. These are our citizens. If we don't take care of them, they're not going to, unless we can make them. I don't know what your powers are. I'll be at City Hall talking about this again, believe me. I didn't mention, I'm a member of Occupy Austin, and I'm also a member of the IBEW. And we don't let this go. We've got people on computers right now looking at the people that you work for. And we're not going to let it go. And we're going to find out what we can do. And we stand behind the displaced citizens that were pushed out at no fault of their own. They're in crisis now. Your people put them in crisis. Y'all let that happen. Don't let it happen again. I don't know what it takes, but find out how we can save this from happening. That's the slumlord you work for, my friend.
No.
We don't want slumlords in Austin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. I was just going to ask if any commission members had any questions for our speakers.
I've got one, not necessarily a question, but I've got one statement to make. The governor just stated that we let this happen. No, brother, we did not let this happen. I promise you. Had we had any way of knowing that this was present and had anything to do with it, brother, it would not have happened. So we did not let it happen. We live in this city, we're citizens just like you. This is not our job. I just came from my job to get here. We work like you every day. Now, we don't get no pay for this. This is all totally volunteer. We do this because we're concerned about this city. We did not let it happen.
Can I have a word?
Can I respond?
Yeah. 'Cause, I started this in
I'm sorry,
December.
Mr. King, I think your time was up, and
He directed a question to me, can I respond?
It really wasn't a question. It was in regards to a statement you made about the commission, that we let it happen. And that's all I'm trying to get you to understand.
If not you, who?
The tenants, me.
Have y'all not been out there before?
We do not go out.
We have a big sum.
Let me explain. I think it needs to be said, and I hope everyone here understands it, that the way the system works in the city of Austin is that there is a department of solid waste services called code compliance. All these gentlemen here that have testified about the condition of the property, that have uniforms on, they work for code compliance. And the management for code compliance is here. They have the ongoing task of trying to maintain a city that meets code. And that's a very difficult task, and it's hard to know what the conditions of individual properties are unless individual property residents and neighbors alert the city to any deficit. Once that happens, then the code compliance department responds and contacts the owners and the tenants, finds out what the problems are, makes recommendations, and tells the property owner what he needs to take care of. If there is a dispute between the owner and city staff, then that case is brought to us. We are citizens just like you. We live in Austin. We try to do our best in keeping a fair and unbiased viewpoint to each of these cases. This one has been in the news. We have intentionally tried to avoid reading about this case or seeing it on television to the best that we are able to, so that we could be objective. That's the way it works.
I got a question for you.
Don't you at minimum
Wait a
have a
minute.
moral and ethical obligation to then push the city? Would you please wait?
I'm sorry. Unless you have signed up to speak, I'll ask you not to speak out. Thank you.
When you get to go home to
Sir,
your wife and kids
sir,
every
please.
day.
I think you have to understand that we don't set the rules for the way municipalities run their code compliance department.
Why not?
Typically, that's done by the state legislature, as part of municipal government code. We are just a quasi-judicial panel commission that sits in and makes judgment on these cases once that dispute comes to us. We don't have the proactive ability to direct city staff to go and look at any specific property or take any specific case under investigation. I hope that's clear to you. I know everyone's upset. Everyone has a hard time understanding how this could get to this point. But I think the key is that neighbors and residents need to be proactive in letting the city staff know when there is a problem, that a situation does not meet code and could be dangerous or life-threatening in any way. Once those wheels are set in motion, then city staff can handle it, and if need be, bring it to us. But I don't know that any of that is a question and does not necessarily prompt any response. I'm just trying to lay out the way it works so most of you will understand that and understand where we are at this point and how we got there.
Excuse me, Carl, did you have some,
Yes, Commissioner, with your permission, I'll make a
certainly.
As we're in this endeavor with the property, we've also received dozens, if not more, complaints of the property. And also, as we inspected the property on the walkways, we've also seen numerous code violations. Those are not being ignored. We've prioritized what we're addressing right now. Right now, we're addressing the dangerous conditions of the walkways, and then the substandard conditions of the rest of the walkways. And as we're doing that, we're also logging in and tracking the other complaints. Many of the citizens have come up to us and made complaints. We've written those down and as well. When complexes, either residents call in, bring to our attention, or something does happen, and we're involved. The city is budgeted for 4 persons in this next budget year for a multifamily unit, which will allow us to be proactive, go into the city and into complexes. Right now, our code department does not have that manpower, so we rely on citizens like yourself. You call in when you have conditions that are in violation of code. But like I said, this property, we're not disappearing after this commission, we're not disappearing after walkways. We have a lot of work to be done in here, and I've assigned inspectors to follow up on there. They'll be in there on a weekly basis, if not daily, until we get these cases drawn. And we will prioritize dangerous conditions, as the young lady's got her ceiling coming in. We've seen other areas that are what we consider dangerous, so we'll prioritize the dangerous down to other ones. Bed bugs we've seen, electrical problems. We've seen numerous problems, and we are going to address those. Those will not be ignored. They're simply being tracked in our database. We'll be following up on those.
Thank you. Okay, we have, I'm sorry, yes.
May I have, Mr. Cannon, because this is a public hearing, the citizen communication sign-up was for items not on the agenda.
That is correct, Commissioner Saltman.
Does that preclude these other people that they did not sign, thinking that they were not signing up for something that was on the agenda, that is on the agenda? Should they not be allowed time to talk?
Generally, the commission sets its own rules for the conduct of the public hearing on the case. The public hearing is still open right now for the Woodridge apartment complex at 1900 Burton. If your procedures require that parties in favor or opposed to a commission action sign up prior to the hearing to speak, then you can proceed with enforcing that.
I'd like to be able to vent to the city staff that they've never met the public.
Put a time on our second.
I would say 2 minutes. Is 2 minutes sufficient? I think everybody can say.
Second.
To discuss the motion, is there discussion?
Madam Chair, the only discussion that I would put forward is, I think 2 minutes is enough. I give it 3 minutes. I know 3 minutes is not enough, but
I yield.
I think 3 minutes is.
I yield to that, and thank you.
I would just like to add that our rules do limit us to 5 citizen inputs. We already did change that and accepted 6 that signed up. However, I am willing to go forward with the will of the commission here, with the caveat that I do want you to understand that this commission has no jurisdiction whatsoever between any landlord and tenant issues. There's nothing that we can do about that. So if your comments are relative to the specific dangerous or substandard building conditions that we have not already addressed, I would be willing to hear additional comments. With that, amendment to your motion, or suggested amendment to your motion.
Do you want to wait 10 more minutes?
I would
stay as long as you.
Sorry, Dr. Eby, just
10 more
a
minutes.
point of clarification. Your rule limiting the communications to 5 for citizens communications is expressly for matters not posted on the agenda. There's not a number limit on citizens who are legally interested parties when a public hearing is open. Thank you.
Yes, but I thought I heard you suggesting that this comments we might be now hearing would be over and above, would be in the general category. But that's all right. I'd like, all in favor of the amended motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, if you will line up, behind the column right here, I will be willing to take a, few comments again, not on landlord-tenant relations or, situations, but on, dangerous and substandard conditions that we have not already addressed. Yes, sir, and will each of you, as I call on you, give your name and your relationship to the property? Yes, sir.
My name's Dennis Roach. I live in Building 8, Apartment 147.
Yes, sir.
And one of the people that has to be held responsible here is us, the tenants. We have allowed this slumlord to get away with too much for too long. We need to get together. We need to get with our neighbors. I don't speak Spanish, so I can't help a lot of my neighbors. My grandson does, and he helps me. And I'm sure there's some people at Code Appliance that do this not like me, but we need to not let up and make them comply. With these busted lights, maybe they saw them, maybe they didn't. Let's caught them in. I know there's one building there with 3 of them hanging. Electrical, fire, we got it all there, you know. No peepholes. A lot of people do not understand what is required before they rent that apartment. Simple things like peephole, keyless deadbolts. I don't have a keyless deadbolt. It's required. I know that. I just renewed my lease. I know that. But I requested it after this all happened. They put done, and it's still not there. Another thing, the owner should do himself a favor and get a new property management company. And there's one thing I want to say that's off the track here. When people were turned out, a lot of these people were not allowed to get their belongings because of the stairwells. They have patio doors in the back on the first floor, and somebody should have seen that those poor people could have gotten their stuff out through the back door. It doesn't matter now, it's all over. But in the future, I think code compliance should be a little more sympathetic and look for something like that and kind of help the property management company. They're all there to help us. And no one did in that respect and a lot of other respects. The name and the finger pointing can go both ways, or all 3 ways, as I said to tenants. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
I live in building, apartment 218, building 9, and before the balcony collapsed right in front of our building, we had code compliance out there a lot, like 4 or 5 times before that, for electrical problems. We didn't have fire alarms, our roof was caving in, it was leaking. We moved in the apartment with big holes in the walls, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a mess before we moved in the apartment. They showed us one apartment and moved in the house. Said they were going to come in and fix it, and this is like 2 or 3 months. And then prior to that, 2 weeks later, that's when the balcony, under us, fell on the person who lived under us, it fell on his head. And then the next day, the whole balcony collapsed. You know, so we've been having problems before this balcony. Everybody in the whole complex, you know, they have people that live in apartments where they push their door doesn't even lock. No one came out to fix that. You know, we've been having problems before this, you know, and the only people who help us is the code compliance, you know, and I thank them. They the only ones in there. No manager. We go to the office is closed more than it's open. So there's no one to go talk to. You know, we just paid rent before this happened. We just paid all our bills, and they put us out for nothing. You know, so and I'm still living on the street. My work clothes, all my medicine, everything. The fire department went in and got a little stuff, you know, but my medicine and everything is still in my apartment, you know, and I'm without anything but the clothes on my back. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
I know I already spoke, but my nerves were getting to me. Not just my floor, my next door neighbor, I smelled gas outside of the apartment, and, you know, I told him, I said, I think there's a gas leak. Well, sure enough, he had told the management, and they were supposed to come out and fix it. They took a pipe cleaner, took his stove apart, and just used the pipe cleaner. They're not certified to do that with a stove, and it made his back burners not work. And then, 3 days later, I went back over there, and I said, I'm smelling gas even more now, and I could smell it outside on the balcony. He called the fire department. The fire department did come out. They did clarify that there was a gas leak, and they said it's not in any immediate danger. They turned his gas off. The property management was supposed to get it fixed. Once again, they sent the same maintenance man after leaving his stove torn apart for a whole day. He had to complain about that, and then they came out, and you can still smell gas because they don't have the right people fixing it. So I'm wondering what's going on. I don't want it to blow up now.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Simmons. Yes.
I'm Linda Falls. Can you hear me?
No, would you speak more directly into the microphone?
I'm Linda Falls, and I live in apartment 204 in building 13, which I now know is 13. And I want to agree with my neighbor that we were given such short notice to vacate, and it caused such, if you all were trying not to read anything about it, you might not be aware of the level of publicity that was generated by people who were forced out of their apartments very quickly. I can't transfer the title to a car. I can't access files for businesses that I run from my apartment. It's difficult to complete my property assessment objections. And the hardest part, of course, I've been wearing the same clothes for 18 days, but I haven't been able to finish the obituary for my father who died. I'm wondering if code compliance now has a little bit less oppositional attitude, perhaps, and maybe this is just a situation that's been taken over all of you. It's just happened to all of us too quickly. But I wonder if code compliance is now going to try and work a little bit more with the management, because this was a Friday evening. Places weren't even open. So Friday evening, we all got a notice of half an hour to leave. Some of us got 40 minutes. Some of us spent a lot of time arguing. But if in the future there isn't a procedure that is more helpful, helping to identify families that are going to need help, or, you know, this is what's coming up. I wonder if you all haven't had a chance to think about your own procedures in a way that would focus less publicity on sort of an action, because believe me, I was living in that apartment. I have a peephole, I have a fire extinguisher, and my apartment was not in any danger of collapse, no roof, nothing like that. And to find out that, oh, it was egregiously uninhabitable was quite a shock. So I'm wondering if there's going to be more procedures, maybe internally. I'm hoping that there's going to be some kind of review, Steve or Mr. Paul, because I know you all went out of your way to explain the situation.
Commissioner, would you want me to address that?
Thank you.
Just to let you know, before, when we had vacate order that Friday afternoon on the 18th, we had met with management during the afternoon and had an action plan of how we were going to order the 5 buildings vacated. In that action plan, it was determined that our inspectors and community liaison would come out to assist with that vacate order. At the same time, the management was told that this is a vacate order. We are not ordering eviction. Vacate orders individuals out of a dangerous condition. We don't have the power, nor do we have the desire to evict people from their apartments. We were not evicting people. We were ordering persons out of a dangerous condition. The management was also aware that they were allowed to go into apartments with individuals, what the engineers decided was one family at a time would be able to go in their apartments to get items that they needed, not heavy loads that would put stress on the walkways. But the engineers, the city, and also their engineers and management had agreed that they could go in one family at a time to take personal items, clothing, medicine, even if a woman had a baby with a baby crib, that would be allowed. So that was all discussed, and that was going to be the plan of action that was going to be incorporated. What happened is 20 minutes before Code's arrival, management made a decision to act on their own to deviate from that plan. So that's what threw a little bit of chaos in it where that didn't go on. But the order did not order eviction of personal items. It's just to vacate persons in dangerous conditions. And Code was not against persons being escorted into their apartments to allow them to take personal items with them as long as it was done in an orderly fashion. There was not too many people on the walkway that would subsequently cause a collapse.
Excuse me for jumping. Could something like that be put in writing? Because that is a big thump against the property management company, them going on their own to make that decision. If something could be put in writing, the minutes of this would be good enough.
You could obtain a copy of the minutes of this meeting, and I suspect that it's also documented in the report of the staff that were out there that night. And I'm sure they'd be glad to get you.
All right, again, I apologize for...
No problem.
Got to get the information somewhere. That's right.
Okay, okay. No? Anyone else? I thank you all for your comments. Excuse me, can I ask the translator to hold the microphone? You can hear him, but we can't hear you.
His name is Israel Ortiz. Is there a code that allows somebody to not pass inspection when you buy an apartment to be able to rent them? Is there anything that says that you don't have to pass inspection to then be able to rent them? Because my understanding is that the property was sold, and the question, I think, is geared towards, was upon that sale, was there permission given for them to go ahead and rent?
I'm going to ask our legal representative to answer that. Speak to that.
There is a city code that establishes a criminal misdemeanor offense to rent property with conditions that pose a health and safety danger to the occupants. That's a Class C misdemeanor under City of Austin code. Generally, when a sales transaction occurs between private parties for a piece of real estate, there is no license to rent or occupy that property in violation of all applicable regulations. But if a property does have a certificate of occupancy for a residential unit, in theory that unit can still be rented out and occupied irrespective of the ownership of the property or change in the ownership. The real critical issue is there a dangerous condition that poses a safety risk to the resident?
That would be yes.
Thank you. The answer, my interpretation, is that there are initial requirements for occupancy, but a change in ownership does not necessarily call on any properties that reestablish that right to occupy.
People that are hardworking people, how that it affects them, not only the families, but the children that go to school. One of the parents told me there's 30 kids every day in the morning waiting for bus stop to come to pick them up. Monday when I got there, only...
William Crumley. I want to say that this issue is a lot broader than Woodbridge Apartments. There's a bigger issue at stake, and that is that people's rights are not being protected. Now, I looked at the lease for this apartment, and anybody that goes into that apartment has to sign their name, and it's with Woodbridge Apartments. Who the hell are they? And then they don't manage the apartment. There's another group out of Houston that manages the apartment. And if anything goes wrong, who do you talk to? You cannot sit down with Woodbridge Apartments or Asset Management. You have to go to court. And the people there do not have the finances, they do not have the time, they do not have the knowledge to go to court. The only person who can help them is you. And one of you said you did not do anything, and I'm sorry, I was out of order, and I said, why don't you? You are the only people who have a power to do anything. When they cannot get a lease without you. And it wouldn't be too difficult, it seems to me, for you to say, you will not get a lease unless you do A, B, C, D, and E. Thank you.
My name is Jose Luis Camara, and I was wondering if I have an opportunity to speak.
Yes, I will.
How hard it is going on with life with none of this stuff, everything I work for, all my important stuff, I have my business papers. I lost my job over this because I didn't have my work clothes, my uniform for work. You know what I'm saying? It's hard.